Is phone fasting realistic?
What an excellent question, Coach Crandall.
Oh, I'm very, very excited to get into this because I think it's a phenomenal idea.
Yes, you are making my brain turn in circles here. It sounds like phone fasting would be good, but you're asking, is it realistic?
Yes.
That must mean that you think it is very difficult.
Well, this is a valuable conversation to have because if you don't think it's realistic, it's going to stop you from doing it. You always follow through on what you believe. But if you do think it's realistic, you can at least make some kind of an effort. And I think that it's beneficial. We know that, like, research tells you that stepping away from your tech, like, that's super beneficial.
I think we should get the parents thinking a little bit more.
I like that. Thinking's good. Questions are a great way to do that.
Let's fire some questions at
Okay.
them.
I got a few that I...
Well, I've got a better one. I've got a better few.
Okay, well, let's see.
Do you accept the challenge?
I do accept the challenge. You start since you threw down the gauntlet.
Could you go one day without your phone?
Yeesh. Is your phone stealing time from your family?
Ooh, theft.
A little bit.
Does your phone own you, or do you own your phone?
Oh, that's a good one. That's pretty much one I had. All right, here's another one. When was the last time you had a full conversation without looking at your screen?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Were you looking at your screen?
I was looking at my screen.
Did you get one of those spam messages again?
Should I read it?
Yes. Okay. So listeners,
this is great.
Steve gets so many cool spam messages. Like, I don't know who's after him, but it's hilarious.
They don't take up much of my time, but they actually make me smile. This one talks about my smile.
Aww.
Happy birthday to my dearest dad. Your smile made the world feel gentle, and your love made me strong. So I'm reading this in mid-December. There's one problem with this.
Your birthday's in August.
My birthday's in August, but anyway. And that is, I don't recognize this as one of my sons or
No. My guess is you probably have them in your
number.
contact list already.
Yes. Yeah. How would your teen react if you proposed a phone-free weekend?
You love music. The song that came to my mind was Beastie Boys, where they sing "Mutiny on the Bounty's what it's all about."
I thought you were going to say you've got to fight for your right to party, but
with your phone, yeah. That too. Can disconnecting help you reconnect?
See, I don't...
Disconnect to reconnect.
Now you're getting clever with your words.
Trying to.
Yeah. What would you do with an extra hour a day?
Oh, I love that one. How many of us complain? I know I complain all the time. I'd love more time. And you're saying it's right there?
That's a stabbing question, because that's basically saying you're wasting an hour a day.
Yeah. Here's another one.
What if it's 2 hours?
Oh, gosh. I don't even want to pretend to get into that. Yeah. Anyway, here's a great one that kind of follows along with that. Does your phone actually make you feel better or worse?
Really good question. This one's a little boring, but I think it's important.
I don't think it's boring at all.
How does your phone use affect your family's overall mental health?
I think that's an important conversation, because each individual is going to be impacted by phone use differently. And I think that's a good assessment. I think that's a tough, challenging.
Yeah, for sure. We don't often think about how it's affecting somebody else.
Yeah. I got another one that's a really good reflector one. Are your values reflected in your screen habits, personally and collectively, with you and your athletes and performers?
So back to our original question.
Is it realistic?
We know it's good. We know it's good to take some time off. Is it realistic?
Boy, that's a fantastic question. We have become our phones are so intertwined into our lives. I love having conversations with teens about their phone. It's great to talk to kids that aren't your kids because they tend to be a little more real with you sometimes. And this is a topic that I love talking to them about. And most, if not all of them, will admit at some point, most of them readily admit that they realize that their phone is a distraction and it gets in the way of them being productive. They look at it as the root of procrastination and so many other things that they struggle with. So they know that they want to get rid of it, not rid of it, but learn how to use it right.
I think adults jump on the same train. When I talk with adults or talk with clients and we get to a place where we're trying to identify distractions, they almost always never answer verbally. They just answer by picking up their phone and showing it to me.
Yeah. This thing right here.
And then they put it back down and they have a disgusted look on their face and they go into a short rant on how this phone is controlling them. It's owning them rather than them owning it.
And so you go back to that idea of it being realistic. We know that it's a problem, but it's so pervasively involved in our individual lives, our collective lives, that it feels like it's not a realistic thing to even go 24 hours without a phone.
Yeah. So let's explore this further. We could definitely just Google a list of ways to do a cell phone fast, tips, ideas, strategies.
Put it in a self-locking Tupperware container that doesn't open for 7 hours.
Right. But we've got to go deeper than this. We've got to go into habits. There's something underlying here. And
yeah, I think,
where do we need to go with this?
You go back to like James Clear idea and like systems win. If you create the right system, you can do this. If you don't intentionally create the system, it's going to be a problem.
Tell me more.
I think that's where when we get stuck in a place like this, where societally we are at this place where we are with phones. The phones came in so strong, so fast, and get used in so many different ways now. They've unintentionally just wedged themselves into all of our systems. The way that we move our money, the way that we communicate, the way that we play our games, the way that we consume our news, all of those things have, without intention, just started to center around our phones, our individual phones now. Do you know anyone that has a home phone?
I know a couple of people, but they're...
How old are they?
They're in their 80s.
Yeah.
They also still write checks.
Yeah. Also an archaic thing. And
actually,
again,
write
it's a
checks,
system.
You know, a handwritten on paper check.
Yeah. And that's a system thing. But that just shows how integrated that has become right now. And without the intention in designing the system, that's when it becomes like a problem. And everybody gets stuck there. And once we get stuck there, it's hard to make a change because our systems just work. Like that's how we want to work because it's simpler, easier. We need to do it that way. So it's just intentionally designing a system now that allows you to have that time away from your device.
Let's talk about time away from your device. And then maybe we can dive back into some possible systems. So do you have a phone problem here that you need to confess to the world?
Yes, I do. And everyone around me will tell you, like my phone's a big problem for me, and I don't play games on my phone. I love to talk about how I don't play games on my phone. It's been about 7 years since I kind of came up with this unspoken rule at the start, and now it is a spoken rule. I just do not have games on my phone. I don't play, Block Blast or Candy Crush or any of the games. I used to get like stuck in stuff. I would play like 3 to 4 hours a day sometimes on word games, on Sim City. That was kind of my big weakness. Where I get
Sim
it on.
City.
Yeah, I really enjoy that game for some reason. I love creating and taxing all my citizens and doing all those things. But I got rid of that. But even though I don't play games, I'm not wasting my time on games. I still struggle a lot because it's integrated into every communication system I have. And I just keep myself way too available, way too open like that. And I am always on my phone.
So you're always on your phone. How do you get away? What do you do? Has there ever been a time where you've been away from your phone where you've enjoyed it?
Yeah. When you go to somewhere where you don't have service, it helps. Like it's a forced fast. You're like, okay, I don't have access to the internet right now, so I'm not able to communicate with all these people and do things. And once I'm in that situation, I can get off of it.
You look at that no service line or the dashes, the bars go away, and there's a few seconds, maybe for some people it's a few minutes of harsh reality sets in. And you feel somewhat, well, I've heard people say they feel naked without their phone. They feel it's awkward. It's like, oh, wow, what's going on here? I know I love time away in the mountains. I love time away camping, being outdoors, being in a place where there is no service. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice not to be bothered by texts.
What do you love most about it?
Notifications. Well, when you're with if you're by yourself, I love the solitude. If you're with other people, it always leads to better conversations, I think.
Yeah.
There probably is some reduced stress, especially if you're in a beautiful place outdoors. That's the tranquility, the stillness,
the peace,
knowing that nobody can reach you. There is some really good benefits to that for sure.
Yeah.
Once on a cruise, I decided purposely not to get the internet package because I didn't want to connect and I didn't want to be connected to.
Do you think we're losing that ability?
A little bit, because during the day, I wonder how well I would function without my cell phone because I rely on it so much.
Yeah.
The problem, I don't know that the problem is that I'm relying on it. The problem is when it takes me away from meaningful activities, and especially when I'm in conversations with people, and it's rude, I think, if you're talking to somebody. I think in a previous episode we talked about someone I know that slaps his friends.
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't? Just a gentle slap just a gentle slap in the face if they're in a conversation with them one-on-one and they're going to their phone and texting or whatever.
Yeah. Is that why you slapped me the other day?
I don't know. So I got a question for you then.
Okay.
How can we make this realistic? How can you make a phone fast realistic? Because I think we sometimes try to go too fast too soon.
Yeah. If you were to say 24-hour without your phone, I don't know if I could look at that as realistic. Like I could look and say, I go a little.
Lead to a fist fight.
It very well could. And I think this is where parents mess this up sometimes as well. Okay, we want to put the smackdown on our kids and make sure they understand. So we're going to say, okay, phone-free weekend. To your kids,
a whole weekend.
Oh my gosh, to your kids, that's
to your teenagers,
completely unrealistic.
This reminds me of when I was going to run a marathon, and so basically couched a marathon after being active for so many years, being an athlete, high school athlete, college athlete, and then all of a sudden, no athlete, immersed in my career and everything, and then 0 to marathon.
Yeah, which is
and got
unrealistic.
injured, and I should have been working on 0 to walk to the end of the block.
Yeah. And you just answered your own question there. That's the answer.
I did?
There is, oh yeah,
Oh, what's the answer then?
you walk to the end of the block.
I thought we were talking about cell phone fast.
We are talking about cell phone fast. So what's the walk to the end of the block? Maybe it's, you know what? When I get home from work, I'm just going to have a half hour where I just put my phone away and I'm just going to engage with my wife and kids. And just do a half hour. And then you get in touch with what you were talking about, the peace, the tranquility. You start to remember, it's, hey, I do have, feelings. I do have connections with other people,
Sure.
and I enjoy them.
And if you knew you were going to do a 30-minute block right when you got home, which that would be a great time for people when they're coming home from something.
Yeah.
And you're going to try to reconnect with
the transition opportunity to get away from the phone.
Yes. So if you knew that in advance, going back to being intentional about this, setting
Creating
up
a system.
If I knew that, okay, I have a half hour without this, I probably am going to be more productive, more efficient in planning ahead.
Yep.
Okay, I have to make sure that I send this text or finish this thing or whatever. And that would be way better than just wandering down the road of randomness.
Yeah, because the randomness makes it hard. It's kind of unrealistic. Like we know we want to get off our device. We're like, okay, I'm going to go do some time without it. We want a meaningful chunk of time, so we think, well, 12 or 24 hours without it. But then that makes it feel unrealistic, and then we don't plan to be successful. We don't create the system that allows us to actually feel the experience of being away from our device.
Right. So I think you're saying take some bite-sized, small steps. You often hear people say, don't immediately pick up your phone in the morning. And I'll read all sorts of stuff that says, don't pick up your phone for the first hour. That probably is unrealistic for somebody who is picking up their phone as soon as they roll over and rub their eyes out.
And do you know why? What's the system that we have for waking up? An alarm clock. What has almost everyone's alarm clock become?
Their phone.
Yeah. And that's why that's an unrealistic thing. Because I love the idea of, hey, don't pick up your phone in the morning. Well, guess what? My phone's my alarm clock. And the first thing I have to do is pick it up to turn it off. And then I get out of bed, it's already in my hand, and there you go.
Maybe you should learn to wake up without an alarm.
Yeah.
I think I'm there.
But it's evolving. Like you've taken the time to make a system where you can wake up without your phone. And to me, it's just like, I'm so busy. It's an entrenched system. I'm like, I don't have the time, energy, effort to make that change.
So somebody that wakes up with their phone and they would love to get to the place where they have a system where they don't even look at their phone for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour. Maybe they do all sorts of other things and then they check it. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Just try 10 minutes. Okay, I'm not going to pick it up for 10 minutes. I'm going to walk a half a mile. I'm going to walk a mile. I'm going to walk 2 miles before I start trying to run 17 miles, 15 miles. Is that what we're talking about?
I think so. And I feel convicted by this because I can, I'm starting to process this and think, okay, like what are the small things I could do to shift away from being on my phone first thing in the morning? Hopefully our listeners are going through that same thing, because this is us. This is real 21st century. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And we could tell them a whole bunch of ideas, but really I think they're going to come up with their best ideas because they know how their phone is affecting them. Maybe they can ask their spouse or partner or their teens, how is this affecting us? In fact, I have a question for you, Nate. And that is, I was just thinking, how could we get our teens on board with something like this?
You know what? I think I got a good answer for that one. But you know what
really?
else?
Look,
I
well,
don't
let's
think
hear
we
it.
have time.
Oh, we don't have time.
No. So I love that. I think that's a great question. And I do have some thoughts I think that will help us help our teens on that. Some things I've seen help kids move away from being as distracted as they are. But I want to spend a lot more time with it than we have right now. So let's do it later, huh?
Nice cliffhanger.
On behalf of Steve Galley, I'm Nate Crandall, and we thank you, our loyal listeners, for tuning into this episode. If you love what you're learning from the Stop Parenting and Start Coaching podcast, we would appreciate it very much if you would leave us a 5-star review and some glowing comments. We also encourage you to share this episode with your friends and family who are parents of athletes and performers. And if you want to explore further and see what Steve and I are creating to help thousands of parents, athletes, and performers, please visit our company's website at createtransformbecome.com. That's createtransformbecome, all one word, .com. There you will find a growing number of resources to help you elevate your performance. Thank you again for your support, and we encourage you to create a magical relationship with your athlete and performer.